Welcome to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9 FM. Rose and Womble Realtor Paul Fuqua is here to share market facts, the fundamentals of selling, buying, owning, and improving your home, plus interesting experts. Now, here is Paul.
Good afternoon, folks. I hope you're not too overwhelmed with the deluge that just fell here at the station. Today, on the Real Estate PB&J Hour, we're going to discuss some serious pitfalls we think you should definitely try to avoid while you're selling or buying or maintaining or improving your home. Realize that the purpose of this show is to share real estate news, advice, and experience to help you make sound decisions on those issues and to make it possible so that you have a resource to which you can turn. My name is Paul Fuqua. I'm a full-time professional realtor with Rose and Womble and Realty here in Hampton Roads, and I have been for too long to remember. But I have been lucky enough to help hundreds of buyers, sellers, and investors in Hampton Roads over the past 20-plus years. And fortunately, a great many of them have thought enough of me that they've referred their friends and clients and family so that I've been able to expand my base over the years. My co-host today, once again, is the wonderful Kim Pimento, broker in charge at the Greenbrier office of Rose and Womble. Thank you very much for being here again, Kim, and putting up with all this. And last week, we continued our discussion of specific suggestions or tips we tried to give you to help to prepare yourself and your home to sell. But it's a tough task, and it has some stories. The idea of chronicling some of the things, some of the pitfalls that you have to avoid while you're either buying or selling a house. This show is about the fundamentals of real estate. That's why it's the PB&J Hour, and what you can do to maximize your ownership and selling power. And if you'd like to talk to us live, call us at 757-497-1310, 497-1310 at 757. And you're listening to us on Money Talk 1310 AM or 100.9 FM, or if you're at the computer, moneytalk1310.com. And remember, transcripts, the recorded transcripts of all the shows, we're in number 29 today, are at my YouTube channel, the Real Estate PB&J Hour. Kim and I want to make this show relaxed, easy to listen to. We want it to be melodic and collegial and a pleasant experience while you're driving home or sitting in front of the computer. And we hopefully will give you the tools so that when you are involved in real estate, it'll be a successful experience. Now, market forces are changing the dynamics of this real estate process, and Kim is going to share some of the statistics of the housing market, both national and, more importantly, local.
All right, well, let's start off with local tonight. So here we are in Hampton Roads. Today, there are 4,138 active residential listings. Of those, 3,301 are single family and 834 are attached, meaning they share a wall. Sometimes they're detached condos, but most of them share a wall. Last week, our count was 4,069 total. This is a 1.7% increase in total listings overall on a week-to-week comparison. The number of properties actually available, not under contract, in this count is 3,051, which is an increase from 3,038, or far less than 1%. So it seems like we're kind of maintaining the number of active listings that are staying on the market and available. We stress that statistics are volatile in scope and must be considered in that light, but they do not indicate the trending to an increase in available housing. Actual sales closed as of today for July is 2,758. For all of June, 3,984 closed. In May, 3,339, and in April, 3,706. So actually, there's been a decrease in sales this month. Last month, I guess.
It's important to remember, folks, that we can go off market and we can give you statistics with relationship to actual listings available and listings that are on the MLS but have a contract on them or do not. But the key focus of real estate statistics comes down to getting them closed.
Correct. Well, I think the decrease is just a little bit of the interest rates, which actually have gone down a little bit, and I'll fix and report that. But I think it's just the decrease is right before we go back to school. And August is our peak. This is our peak month. This is the time that we kind of reach that peak, and we start going back down again at the end of August. And September, it keeps going down. So we're going into that downward slide a little bit, which shows trends of going back to about 2004 or farther. So this trend is staying intact. It stayed same thing with 2021, 2019, 18, 17, 16, 14, and 15. Everything peaks about August and goes down.
Now, when you
slightly.
say everything, is that listings or is that sales? Or
homes on the market.
Homes on the market.
That's homes on the market, yes.
Well, yeah, my clients always ask that, and I know anytime I'm in a social setting, I'm asked, well, how's the market? And it's tough to explain to people that these things are seasonal. People have been looking for houses, trying to get in them before the school year begins. And in August, that's leading right up to the school year because you've got Labor Day coming up within the next 2.5 weeks. So,
right. Well, it just kind of goes to show that in 2014, there was a little over 11,000 homes on the market. In 2015, that number went down to probably about little right below 11,000. Then we go up to 2016, and we stayed there about, it kind of hovered right there with 2015. Then 2017, it starts coming down. We're down to about, probably 10,500. Then 2018, it goes down to just below 10,000 on the market. Then we go to 19, we're down to almost probably about between 8,000 and 9,000 on the market. And then
now,
in 2020, we're down to 5,000 on the market.
And we're lower than that.
And then
right
2021, we were down to about 3,500 or a little over 4 on the market, I guess. And now in 2022, it looks like we're going to be probably right around that 3,000 mark, 3,500 on the market.
Don't your statistics show that it still is a very, very strong seller's market because of the lack of inventory? You have absorption rates.
Yes. And I just want to tell y'all that we consider a seller's market anything that will sell from 0 to 5 months.
That's from the time it hits the market and goes off.
It goes off. And then for a flat pricing or a balanced market, we consider that 5 to 8 months closing time. And then for a buyer or seller's market, a buyer's market, we're 8 to 12 months and 12 plus months again. So, but in all of Hampton Roads, we are still in an extreme seller's market. Our absorption rates are anywhere from 1 month, and this is across the board average, to 2.6. And then when you get up to the 1 to 2 million, the 900 to about 1 million or more, there's 4.2 months, and 2 million plus is 10.3 months. So that's still a very good market.
Those multi-million-dollar houses, and I have one coming on sometime in the next several weeks, those houses have always taken a little longer because the number of qualified buyers is so much longer, and the house has to appeal. Mm-hmm. Although, when you see what's happening in other parts of the country, and there's this migration out of very onerous tax situations in the upper Northeast, the West Coast, there's the movement to places that are lesser in cost for comparable housing. We're seeing people come in and buy these 7-figure homes and paying almost all in cash. It's astounding, and it's reliving, for me, the boom in the early 2000s, late 90s and early 2000s that ended up in a crash. But that was a different set of circumstances. We have protections, thankfully, to avoid the funny money that was going along at that time.
Well, and just a reminder to people that this extreme seller's market right now, it goes across Chesapeake, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Virginia Beach, Suffolk, Smithville, Franklin, Moyock, Currituck, Hampton, Newport News, York, Poquoson, Williamsburg, and Gloucester. So, we're talking about across the area we have a strong market, not just in this Virginia Beach area where everybody in Norfolk, more of a tourist type cities.
Well, this is an area where it's affordable housing, one, and number two, we have a constant influx of qualified buyers in the military. Those are people who are serving our country, and they are good credit situations. The difficulty that some have is that of pricing, where we see the fastest turnover is in the more affordable housing, the under $450,000.
Well, and now there's no limits on the VA loan.
Right. Well, I think I've said I sold one up on the bay. It was on Beach Block. It was on Beach Block, and it was a $970,000 or $60,000 sale, and it was a VA.
Right, but they usually put something down on that side. Do they put anything down? Was that a zero in?
That was a zero in.
What was the funding fee on that?
I didn't even look. It was I was so staggered at the idea. But I think these folks had a couple other houses they were going to sell, so it was a way to get into what they wanted because the competition for the house was so severe.
Right.
Which is, as a realtor representing a listing and its owners, it's a pleasurable experience to be in. And I know that I'm looking forward to other ones that I have that are in the pipeline. They just aren't prepared yet to be put on the market. And that's an important consideration.
Yes. Well, let's just go about rates right quick.
Yeah, what are they?
Non-conforming, which that means a jumbo loan. 5% down with 0 points. That's
Okay.
not bad.
That's far better than last week.
Yeah, that's far better. And again, this is a 740 credit score,
Right.
with a really good debt-to-income ratio. 30-year conforming, that means 5.1% with 1 point. Remember, 1 point equal 1% of the sales price.
Loan amount?
Loan amount. Sorry. Loan amount. So if it's a $300,000 house, you finance $250,000, your funding fee would be $2,500.
Right.
All right. So then conforming investment is 25% down with 5.625% interest and 2 points.
Okay, so the
that's
points
still
have
a little
gone up
high.
on that. Yeah.
Yeah, the points have gone up on that. But, I mean, I think everybody's been used to putting 25% down on most investment properties.
Yeah.
And then FHA, it's 5.25% with 0 points. And VA is 5% with 1 point.
So we've seen this. And there was this panic earlier in the year when the rates started bumping up. And I think one of the strengths of this show is we kept saying to people that the rates are volatile. They will move. The market moves.
Yeah, they move.
And
that never stops.
Yeah, they're always moving. And the idea of 5% being a onerous level of interest or usurious is incredible in my mind, because I remember and am old enough to remember when 7% was considered a great rate on a mortgage.
Yeah.
We're not there now. Dino, how much time do we have before we take a break? We have 5 full minutes. Okay. Are you ready to go into the beginning of discussing pitfalls in listing your house for sale?
I am ready.
Okay. Now, the first one is not being prepared.
Yeah, that's true.
What do I mean by not being prepared? Not being prepared is not only are you not prepared to go through the process of preparing the house, doing the work, correcting faults, gussing it up for the prom, but also emotionally you have to be prepared. There are stories I can tell, and if I need to draw out the today's show, I will. But there have been many, many instances in my career where I've observed the Mrs. Seller to be very emotionally involved in the house, insofar even wanting to know what the buyer's reaction to the house was at walkthrough, when most concerns are, is everything done? And no, I've had people ask me, well, what did they think? How did they like it? Did they admire this and that type of thing? Because there's an emotional component.
Yeah, people are selling emotions for sure, and they definitely want people to like their home and appreciate what they've done to it, or like those curtains. They get really involved in that.
That's one of the things that I don't know how many times I've had people say, well, we got to keep the curtains in the master bedroom or the primary bedroom.
Yeah, matches my bedspread.
Yeah, matches the bedspread. And I'm going, wait a minute. You're selling this house for whatever. Let's say $500,000. And those curtains and that bedspread maybe cost you $300 or $400. and they make the room. They make the room. They are a component because everything's keyed to them. Yet that emotional hold is so strong.
Yes, it is.
Do you have any stories?
Well,
I mean, I can go through some, but I don't.
Not being prepared to me is like not having higher expectations. I think that's the biggest disappointment I see, especially with buyers, is they're really disappointing when they find out what their price range really buys.
Oh, let's get into buyers later. This is listing. This is
okay.
What do we?
Well, sellers are. I think they're not prepared to take the goods and the bads, especially the cons of what the people say. They always tend to want to make excuses, which I understand. They're selling their lifestyle and their home, so they're not prepared for that. I don't think they're prepared sometimes for the amount, especially the last couple of years, the amount of people that come through your home. I mean, when we had buyers and agents lining up to get into the seller's home, it was like having a zoo in your home.
I will tell a very brief story. It wasn't so long ago that I had a listing for an original cottage in Shadow Lawn, and Shadow Lawn remains one of the hottest areas in Virginia Beach. And it went on the market on Thursday morning. And my seller had instructed me that he would like to concentrate the showings later in the afternoon after he had had his daily nap. And he was an older gentleman. He'd lived in this house for I don't know how many decades. So when I got all these calls, I said, you can start showing the house at 4 o'clock. But I'm scheduling everybody in between 4 and 6. So first come, first serve. Well, I decided to go down there and be there at about 3:45, and I couldn't drive down the street. We caused a traffic jam. The Virginia Beach police were called. There were so many people lined up to see this thing because it hadn't been touched. It was priced perfectly, and at the same time, there was very little in the market at that time.
Right.
And people they were running through the house, and the old man was sitting on the front porch, despite the fact that I told him, be gone. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here. See if you can buy my house, blah, blah, blah. All right, fine, whatever. And I made excuses. And so I was there as the traffic cop as these people came to see it. And I got 4 contracts that day, and not one of them wasn't written on the hood of a car.
Yeah,
it was amazing. Yeah. And remember, in those days, this was long ago, and that the idea of a electronic signature was there and it was usable, but it was very laborious. So agents were out there writing on the thing, and pressing hard because you're making 3 copies, kind of situation.
Yeah.
It's time for us to take a break. We're going to be back. We only got through not being prepared. We got a lot more stuff to talk about here on the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 AM and 100.9 FM and MoneyTalk1310.com. See you in a minute.
Now back to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9 FM. Rosenwomble Realtor Paul Fuqua gives you the fundamentals of real estate selling, buying, owning, and improving your home.
Welcome back. If you're new to the show just now, you're listening to the Real Estate PB&J Hour. I'm Paul Fuqua with Rosenwomble. I'm here with the broker in charge at the Greenbrier Rosenwomble office, Kim Pimento. And what our discussion today is the pitfalls to avoid in listing your house for sale, or later in the show, buying a house. We were on the issue of not being prepared both physically and emotionally. And part of that, under our second thing, was not being realistic in pricing. Can you chime in on that? Or do you want to go back to the emotional aspects of selling?
The emotional aspects, I think everybody probably understands that. But, yeah, the realistic in pricing, that's really becoming an issue right now because people are wanting, they see that the house next door sold for $580,000. And then that's what they want to start the list price at. But you really can't do that. You need to go there and investigate that, compare the 2 properties. Did they get the appraisal? Was there guaranteed funds? Because we are seeing appraisals not coming in at these high prices.
Well, yeah, I recently had one, and I'll briefly run down what happened on the house. We put it on the market at a very aggressive price. It was not overpriced by any stretch of the imagination, but it was at the top of the market for the neighborhood. And We had a tremendous amount of traffic, but didn't get in the first 5 days. And the arrangement I had made with the seller was, if we don't get an offer in the first 5 days, considering how well prepared this house is,
in this market, though, that would be in this type of market.
This is this market
right
now. And at the end of those 5 days, I said, in 3 days, the next Thursday, in time for the weekend, we're going to reduce the price to what we discussed previously. And they were fine with that. All right, we did. We came down by $25,000 to a break. On a $100,000 basis, and within 2 days, we had not only a full price offer, an offer that had what was it? Well, it was a $699,000, and it was a $715,000 offer with a guarantee up to $725,000, and the original list price had been $725,000. So what we did was to create the carnival atmosphere, then drop the price so that it hit the threshold, that level where people were looking. I'm certain these buyers were looking at 700 down. They didn't see it when it was 725. They'd been burned. They had lost 3 other houses by being outbid. So they came in, and then we had 2 others that were supposed to come right in behind it. But my seller had informed me, you can advise them that we have another offer that we find pretty acceptable. We're ready to sign it. So we didn't kick in the escalation clause. Didn't have to in this instance.
Well, I think your price has to be enticing.
Yes.
Very appealing, very enticing. If somebody looks at the house and say, in that neighborhood, no way, you're going to have issues, because the problem is if you've got the good location, you've got a nice house, and it's a lot of showings and no offers, it's price. Yeah.
It's always
or condition.
It's the perception of value is what I use, because you can be in a $400,000 house that has a perceived value when people walk through the door of $300,000 because it's either not been updated, not been maintained beautifully, not crisply clean, not all these things that the most sellers do, and that creates a perception of value that is in contradiction with what the price is. When they walk in and they see a house that's been prepared and glistens, and it meets the expectation of value, they will be more than likely to make an offer.
Correct. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but part of that is most people that I know live in a house in a neighborhood, and in that house is better than everybody else's.
Yes. Yeah, people put a lot of value on their own sweat equity.
Yeah, and it's better because it's their house.
Right.
My house is better than his house.
Right, but I think, especially our HGTV watchers, there's some people have skills to lay tile, and some people don't. And you probably need to ask a friend. Don't lay your whole house before you ask somebody.
Yeah.
Because that's not easy to take up.
And finding the qualified contractor, subcontractors,
yes.
That's very difficult. And if you get one, don't give his name out to everybody that share. You know, because he'll get so busy that you won't be able to tap into his talents.
I like this next one, not fixing stuff. And this is I always get cracked up. My favorite people. Well, it's always been like that. Well.
Guess what? Yeah, remember, these are
maybe
pitfalls
you've learned to live
avoid.
without your bathroom door shutting, but most people won't like that.
After last week, I was thinking about this thing in preparation for the show, and I went home and I had to shove my front door to get it open. It wasn't, and I realized we've been shoving that front door to get it open for at least a year. So what is the problem? I took my little screwdriver and zing and backed out the screws, and the screws holding the hinges in the door, rather in the wall, were only about half an inch long. So they didn't have any gripping power. So I went and got some 3-inch screws. Now that door goes whoop, whoop, closed. And my wife came home and she almost fell into the house.
Yeah.
Because she opened the door and she's used to putting her shoulder in. That door flew open. And she comes her purse hits the floor. And she's like, she got mad at me. That doesn't make sense. Should she get mad at me for fixing the door?
Well, you should have told her.
Well, I wanted to experience it, But fixing stuff. Like, if you have a screen door, there's nothing worse. You walk up and your front door is a screen door, and the screen has tears in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and on the screened-in porches a lot, just little bitty things like that. But yeah, but you should go around and fix stuff, especially if you can see it with your naked eye.
Yeah. Now I have this other house coming up in the Thorogood area of Virginia Beach. It's a very nice little townhouse just outside anyway. And my client she said, well, I'm not sure I want to put a sign out and broadcast in the neighborhood because I don't want nosy neighbors coming through the house, and that's a no-no. The idea, she didn't want their neighbors to come through.
They're going to be the first ones in the door.
Yeah, you want them because you want your neighbors to appreciate the house.
And you also, as an agent, you want to meet those nosy neighbors in case they want to sell their house.
Yeah.
Let's be honest about that.
Yeah,
one.
that's true. That's true for open houses. But if they want to talk to one another and they want to go through the house, principal to principal, that's fine and dandy. I think it's marvelous. But you want your neighbors to appreciate your home.
Correct.
And you want them to want to sell at the price you've chosen.
Yes.
They're there. They may have family or friends or acquaintances or colleagues at work that are looking to move into this area. So welcome the nosy neighbors.
And you hope what they say is going to be positive. I was showing a house on a golf course in Chesapeake, and they loved it. And we came out talking, and the neighbor came over and said, you think about buying this house? And we said, yeah, we really like it. Well, beware the golf balls. You get hit when you're sitting out on your back porch.
Yeah. Landings. All right, folks, I've sold I don't know how many millions of dollars worth of houses on golf.
Yeah.
The target zone, especially for the charity events that are held, is approximately 170 yards off to the white tees on the right-hand side. That's where slicers hit the ball, and there's no controlling it there. And so if you're looking at a house, just be aware, if you're 170 yards, anywhere from 150 to 225 yards off the white tees on the right side of the fairway, you're going to get golf balls in your yard.
Oh, okay.
That's just natural. Now, the other thing is, I have had a client who didn't want a sign put up in the yard. That's a pitfall to avoid. You want a sign.
Yeah, you do want a sign, but some people think they want privacy. I mean, you can always tell the agent when they call, there's no sign in the yard, but yeah, people want the drive-by traffic, but some people just think they just don't want the neighborhood to know.
But that doesn't make sense, and that's a pitfall. You want your neighbors to know. Number one, you want your neighbors to promote your house. Number two, you want the neighbors to keep an eye on your house for you if you're not there. I mean, that's one of the aspects of a good neighbor. They look at the house. They watch out for you.
Like a good neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, but I think some people really don't care if the neighbors are watching out over their house. They have security cameras and stuff, but I have had a lot of people that don't want for rent signs, don't want for sale signs in front of their house.
I've never understood it, and I don't, we send some people out when I have buyers in from out of town, and we'll go through 3 or 4 houses, and we'll be talking about some of the pitfalls of buying in a little bit, but where I will send them into a neighborhood where there is a house that is listed, or there may be 2 or 3 houses that are listed, so that they can get a feel for the neighborhood. And because I'm going to show them those houses if they like to look in that neighborhood, and I'm going to keep them aware because they'd be flying back to wherever they're from the next day, and so they're only going to see these things by the description and by the photographs. I want them to get a feel for the neighborhoods because you buy neighborhood first. Face it, folks. You sell neighborhood and then the house. You buy neighborhood and then the house. You don't buy the house independent of the neighborhood. Neighborhoods make the difference. So not allowing a sign to be posted in your front yard is, in essence, keeping that house quiet. And you're relying upon, of course, I don't have any problem bragging, you're relying upon the marketing efforts of a good agent like myself who knows how to work the system to get qualified buyers to come through there.
Well, I think people also buy for schools, location,
neighborhood,
neighborhood. But I think they also buy, just it's some of the certain amenities they want.
Neighborhood.
On the water, it's not always neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, but if you're on the water, your neighbors are on the water in most.
Yeah, but maybe not across the street.
Right. Oh, yeah, got that right. All right. Another pitfall. If you're listing your house for sale, one of the things, remaining in the house or on the grounds during showings.
Yeah, that always feels so awkward for the buyers.
Yeah, they cannot be honest. And you'll hear their discussion in hushed tones.
Yeah, and some sellers always want to just follow the buyers around and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and that's real awkward.
First thing is, when someone comes into your house and you're there, it is your house. We need them to come through that house and bond emotionally. We want them to see where they're going to put their Christmas tree. We want to see how they're going to have their first family dinner. We want to see where they're going to put their TVs. We want them to be able to imagine what the house will look like with their furnishings in it. Not yours, theirs.
Correct. And you can't talk to them over your speaker through your security system either.
Oh, no.
I have had that happen. It's like, no, I heard something that you spoke to the buyers walking through the house. So you can't do that. You really cannot be recording them at all.
You cannot record them because they have not given you permission?
Yeah, you can do the video, but you can't audio.
That's correct. And in my eyes, if you're going to video, you should disclose it. That's what I think. Just a sense of
I think that
privacy.
should be a disclosure for sure.
So that, and because that's equivalent to remaining on the property. Another pitfall. You got the house. You got a showing. It's at 4:00 in the afternoon. This is on Saturday because a great many of the showings are Saturdays and Sundays because the working people can't take off during the week. And what happens if you're cooking cabbage?
Right. Frying fish.
Frying fish, cooking smells. If you're baking bread or a cake or cookies,
that's susceptible, but nothing much than that.
No. You don't cook liver and onions an hour before you got a showing coming in. It just doesn't fly because the olfactory sense, your sense of smell, is the strongest in terms of evoking memories, and we don't want people thinking that your house is Joe's Crab Shack because of what you cooked earlier in the day. All right, another pitfall. What do we got on the list?
Letting the yard go to seed.
Yeah, that's especially right now. If you drive around,
at least the front yard.
You drive right now. I don't know. I'm seeing crabgrass that looks like it'd eat us. It's huge.
That's all the rain. But people, the yard is really important. You put a little money into the front yard and the flower beds at least before you sell it.
Okay. The other thing is unfortunately, the listing process and the showing process requires you're departing the house. And you've got to make it available to be shown, if you can, with a 2 to 4 hour window of notice.
Well, you should have that detailed conversation with your agent. If you have dogs or if you work from home, so you only want that home shown during certain hours, that needs to be stated in the agent remarks. The agent knows, and you cannot delay showings because that's the new rule in rain. You have once you hit that house hits the market, it has to be available to show.
Yeah. So
you need to discuss it in detail. Hey, I work from home. I don't want any showings before 3 p.m. or something. But you can do that. But just otherwise, you need to be able to let the house be shown. Yeah,
the pitfall is that it can be inconvenient, especially if you're young children. What we try and do is, if it's a certain kind of property, a lot of times it'll be agent present will be the requirement. In most instances, we need 2 to 4 hours notice. That's what I ask. And the first weekend a property's on the market, I ask my clients, vacate. Go down to the Outer Banks or go to the ocean front or do something, but give me from 10 o'clock on Saturday until 4 o'clock, and the same thing on Sunday. Go someplace. Go visit people so that I can send people in there, and I will alert you, but I don't want to have to delay them in any fashion. We want that traffic. We're coming down to a commercial break. You're listening to the Real Estate PB&J Hour with Paul Fuqua and Kim Pimento. This is Money Talk 1310 AM, 100.9 FM. We'll be back in a minute to continue the pitfalls to avoid in listing or buying a house. Bye.
Now back to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9 FM. Rosenwomble Realtor Paul Fuqua gives you the fundamentals of real estate selling, buying, owning, and improving your home.
This is Paul Fuqua again. If you've just joined us, this is the Real Estate PB&J Hour, and we're talking about all manner of pitfalls to avoid when you want to sell your house, or pitfalls to avoid when you're out on the market to buy one. If you've missed the earlier part of the show, you can always reach out and use our YouTube channel, the Real Estate PB&J Hour, where you'll find each of the past 28 shows chronicled, and you can you can move fast forward when you're on YouTube. You don't have to listen to the whole show. And we edit out the commercials, and it's helpful so that you can glean the little bit of information that has been generated during the show during every Thursday. It is the Real Estate PB&J Hour. If you want to call us live here on the air, please do it, 757-497-1310, 757-497-1310. The phone is answered by none other than the phenomenal Dino Franza, and he will screen your call, and if he doesn't like you, he's going to put it through to us regardless. But he is our barrier to nasty people. Now, where we were talking about the times to make the house available to be seen by escorted potential buyers, and the next thing, a pitfall to avoid, is people run into trouble by not following or not removing personal and private items from public view.
Yes.
If you've got your checkbook out, or you don't know, and I don't know, and for that matter, the agent may not know the actual background other than the financial qualifications of a prospective buyer, but you don't leave your personal stuff.
Yeah, personal pictures, anything that kind of, because a lot of times they'll just spend so much time trying to figure out why you're moving, especially if they think you're getting divorced, or, it's just crazy what people will try to figure out. So, yeah, try to move as many personal effects as possible.
Yes, and if you have any weapons, make certain they're under total lock and key. If you have any jewelry or anything that of a smaller nature that could be pilfered or stolen, make certain it's out of sight, out of mind, because these are strangers going through your house. They are escorted by very good agents in 99.9999% of the instances, but it's still a stranger. And you've opened your home up for the purpose of attracting their dollars. And in so doing, you must protect yourself. That's a key component. That's one thing I have to say, in all my years since 2004 being in the business, I haven't really had any problems. I think that most people are honest. Most people are. However, all it takes is one or two. Yeah, but I have heard of things happening, but I don't think it happens on just a regular basis. No. The biggest issue I've had was a very nice house in Woodard's Mill area, Chesapeake, big house, and they had a fairly extensive collection of glassware, and there was a showing. Then and there was no feedback from the agent initially until I called him, because my client called, and apparently there'd been a vase. Mm-hmm. If it's over $50, it's at $50 above, it's a vase. Below, it's a vase, I guess. I don't know the distinction. Vase, vase, whatever. But it was a piece of glass, and it had been knocked over and broken. Oh. And this client, my seller, was shrieking about this thing, and it wasn't an heirloom, but it was something that had been purchased to go to the collection. And I called the agent who'd shown it, and that's one of my responsibilities, and that's how we trap their names through the lockboxes and all. And he professed no knowledge of it whatsoever, but he did ask his clients, and his client said, "Oh, I thought that had happened," and they actually made good. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, see, most people are good. Yeah, they are. I was astounded, and they fessed up to it, and they didn't pick it up. That was that's what I couldn't understand. If you knock something over and break it, pick it up and at least put it on a table and leave a note. And I'm sorry. Well, maybe the person that did it didn't tell them until afterwards. Yeah, it could have. Who knows? Sometimes that doesn't come out till you're back in the car saying, "Oh my God, I knocked a vase over in that bedroom." A vase. A vase. Yeah. So, a vase, you can go to, big lots. The only problem I've had is with people when showing houses, and I had to kind of to protect the sellers. Children and the seller's children had very enticing, cool toys, mm-hmm. and a lot of times the kids, it was a really big battle. They wanted to, try them out, and so sometimes you have to. Same thing with playground equipment. Yes, but playground equipment,
if you're outside and you want to take a little swing, that doesn't bother me. But the ones inside the house, but kind of, you don't really. That's kind of a touchy situation.
Well, I just ask the parents. I never step in. I just ask the parents, please make certain that the kids are respectful of others' belongings. It's up to them, and we can't do much about it. You don't want to go cuff the kid.
Right.
You'll be in jail. The other, not a pitfall. Not following
closets.
Closet. Clean up the closet. Get all the shoes.
Yes.
Leave the shoes.
No, I meant the kids.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm very.
Don't bring a dog or a cat with you when you're looking at houses.
Yeah.
A pitfall. Not following the actual market values for your neighborhood. You have to stay up to date. You have to know what's going on in your neighborhood. That's part of your agent's job, is to give you an indication of new listings that came on since yours came on, or changes in pricing that happened in your neighborhood, and or other closings and that could impact it. Closings are important, and one of the things we track, because closings are what are used by appraisers. Mm-hmm. The house down the street may have sold at $550,000, and you're coming in. You've got an offer for $575,000, but that house at $550,000 does not count in an appraisal as a comp because it's not been closed.
Unless it closes the day before or something. So you always call the agent.
Yes, that's the responsibility.
It has to be closed by the day.
Yes.
The day of the appraisal, actually.
Yes, and that's most critical, especially in this environment where we've had this upsurge in offers at above the list price. And then the last thing, the one I consider,
dog, cat, birds, ferrets.
You have to remove as much as possible pet odors.
Yes.
There's nothing more impactful in a listing as a pet odor for a buyer walking in, and because they may well be allergic to dog hair or cat hair.
That's usually the worst one, when someone comes in and they're allergic to cats, and it wasn't told that there was a cat on the premises.
Yes. And that's important. They always say there's a pet on the premises as part of the listing, but it should be down in the agent remarks. There is a cat, and please don't let Fluffy out is one of the things. The worst I ever had was a beautiful 3-story condo, and the seller's husband raised or maintained reptiles. And I'm talking about like those big snakes that are yellow and stuff.
Yes, and they smell.
Well, yeah, and who's going to reach in there with this thing as big as your thigh and change the sawdust? It was disgusting. I
don't think I've ever been in a house that I thought, I'm going to change that cat litter for this people.
Well, if it's your client, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I mean, I've gone through and I've washed all the dishes. And
if I represent the seller, I might do something like that, but I don't do it. Just.
And look, if you have an agent that you respect, and he or she is going to hold the house open on Sunday, clean it up, because we're trying to get ourselves set up to welcome people to your home. But if we have to go through and mop up and wash the dishes or get them in the dishwasher or pick up the towels because we're not there we know that you live there. We know we love you because you're a client. You're a money source for us. And
that's not the only reason. Paul.
Hey, wait a minute. We make our livings by getting other people to sign on the dotted line. That's reality.
Yes, that's true.
That's reality. Now,
we're salespeople.
The great part of it is we can enjoy the process, and we can make friends in the process.
Yes, it's fun. I mean, clients are fun. It's fun taking them out. I remember one of my favorite.
You're talking buyers, though. I'm talking sellers.
Oh, sellers, yeah. But sellers are fun, too.
Yeah, except when you tell, hey, would you please clean up the bathroom the next time and flush the toilet, because I've got to do that when I got people coming through at 4 o'clock. Anyway, all right. Now, let's get to the buyer side. That's where you really have your thing. What's the first pitfall to avoid? Buyer. We're talking buyers. What's the first pitfall to avoid?
Choose a good lender. And boy, are we seeing that right now, because we've had so many loan companies pop up there that, aren't the speediest or know the area. And that has been, lately, I've had, going across my dress, more trouble with some lenders.
Yeah.
It could be a lot of different factors, so you never know. But still, choose a good lender. Have a talk with them. and see if they can really meet your needs.
Go through, and once you choose
And shop
one,
around.
Remember, they're selling money like lettuce. It's their livelihoods. There's nothing wrong with it, but you have to recognize that people are in this business not because you're a great person, but because their living depends on it.
Right, and most of us agents know good financial people, like Advanced Financial here. Here that Holly Robinson's on our show sometimes. But the thing about that is, I think that sometimes they think when we tell them about something, they think we're going to get something out of it, and that's just against all ethics of a real estate agent. We don't get anything.
We have to disclose if there's any kind of connection.
Yeah, we don't get anything from referring you to people that we've worked with before. But ask your agent. But I know a lot of the military people are loyal to certain financial institutions, and I respect that.
Well, one of my print clients in my other life in Washington, D.C. was the National Association of Federal Credit Unions. And their biggest member was Navy Fed. And Navy Fed is larger than most banks in this country. They're phenomenal. But they are so large, and they're like Bank America, that it's very difficult to make certain that you're talking to the same person each time. And that's the importance. I've seen some wonderful service out of Navy Fed, and I've seen some awful service out of Navy Fed.
Right.
It really depends on how familiar the buyer has been with the process.
Right.
But the other thing is, you make a choice. Once you've made the choice, do not avoid going through the application process. Get everything you can as early as you can.
Yeah, and don't get frustrated with the application process, because you do have to pretty much just show them everything, and you're going to have to dig through tax records and pay stubs and proof that you worked there. And so it's not a pleasant experience, because it seems like every time you turn around they want something else.
Yeah.
So please don't get discouraged with that. Everybody goes through it, and especially if you're going to use funds, gift funds from parents or something, please let that lender know, because sometimes there's certain ways that you can receive that money and have to track it. So just be very upfront with your lender. And also, if you pay child support, you need to say that.
Yep.
Because I had real bad difficulty just lately. Some people aren't reporting that they pay child support, so they didn't find, and for some strange reason, we didn't find out to right at the end.
Yep, and that'll affect the ability of that buyer to perform, because the debt to income is critical. And if it's VA, the other thing you cannot avoid doing, and this is a pitfall that people make, is not being realistic about the actual costs to buy, service debt, and operate the house. If you're in a 4,000 or 5,000, say you're buying a 6,000 square foot house, and the last house you were in was in Florida, and it was 3,000 square feet, but you're here now, the cost to operate that house are going to be significantly higher, because you have to heat it during the winter. So you have to know the cost to operate a house. Now, VA for years has used a number of 14 cents per square foot per month as the amount of money. They call it a maintenance fee. And that's the cost of maintaining the house. And they factor that in when they give you your qualification. I didn't know that until very recently.
I didn't know that. That's a pretty good number, and probably a pretty good thing to do.
Yeah, and you should know, one of the things that I tell my sellers is, give me your average cost for your utilities over the past year. What is it? How much is the gas, your natural gas? How much is your water? How much is your electricity? What things do you have under contract for regular inspections, the HVAC? If they have a pool, do you have a pool guy? How much is that? So that the cost to run that house, just like driving a car, has a specific monetary value, and it has to be part of the monthly budget when you are out there looking at houses. You may be at the right point for the mortgage and the PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, but then the operational costs. And if you're buying a condo or you're an HOA, you have a fee there that has to be calculated in. All that you should have in hand when you go out through and start looking at houses.
Yeah, it's because it's very disappointing to think you're in a 600,000 price range and find out you're like 5.
Yes,
that's a big difference.
Yeah, now we're coming down to the last 3 minutes of the show.
Okay.
I've enjoyed this.
Yeah, well, the other thing we're talking about is be realistic about the cost to buy. And, right now we're seeing people still paying their closing costs. That will probably change. It is changing a little bit. But you can kind of factor about 3% for closing costs. A lot of people, that's a lot. So, they're not prepared for that. And it does go down. The ratio or the percentage of closing costs actually for a higher priced home is a little bit less than it is for the $150,000 home, which is, a little bit sad there. But anyway, so you need to be prepared for that. You'll have to have your application fee. You'll have to have a EMD, which is an earnest money deposit, usually at least $500 or more. If your house, the price of the house goes up, the price of your earnest money deposit should go up. So be prepared for that, and you'll still have to have a little bit in reserves.
All right, folks. So start saving your money. If you want to reach us, please, you can. My number is 757-449-7463. It's Paul Fuqua, Rose and Wemmel, 757-449-7463. And Kim can be reached at 757-523-1900. And we welcome any approaches. If you would like a comparative market analysis of your house, please give me a call. You can also go to paulfuquarealtor.com and reach me that way. We have other items that we're going to continue on next week, but we're winding this show to a close. We thank you very much for being part of it, for listening. Hopefully, we'll be able to cover the balance of the buyer side pitfalls to avoid. And I think that it's been a very good pleasure. We have 1 minute left of airtime, and I want to thank you for being part of our audience. This is the Real Estate PB&J Hour. I'm Paul Fuqua, and we're with Kim Pimento.
Yeah, and I'd encourage you, please call in. I would love to have discussions over the radio. That sounds like fun. I know you're driving, so maybe you should, but most of you can just shout out the number now, and it'll dial for you.
Thank you so much for being part of it. We'll see you next week. This time, 5 o'clock. Money Talk 1310 AM, 100.9 FM, and moneytalk1310.com. It's Paul Fuqua saying good luck, good night, and see you next week.